So, what would Art Bell say? From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good morning or good evening, as the case may be. In my case, it is good evening. Uh, what the heck happened to my sound? Yeah, right before I went on air, I pulled the cord. I went to go get my drink and I pulled the cord out of my headphones. So I don't know what I did to it. But anyway, let me know that you can see me and hear me, guys. Especially after that little stunt I just pulled just now. Thanks, Alan. I assume see me and hear. All right, thanks, buddy. Yeah, so I guess this would be from the low desert in Texas, and we'll leave the word great off of there. South, North Texas. How about that? From the low desert and North Texas, unfortunately, wish it was Iowa. I bid you all good evening or good morning, as the case may be. Maybe it's good afternoon. Maybe you're watching this later. Anyway, yeah, every once in a while I get in the mood to re-listen to some of those Art Bells, or in my case, listen to. I heard a few back in the day, but not a lot. But night radio. I mean, that's why I'm doing this. I love the whole concept of the whole idea, the whole theme of night radio, and you speaking of my location and the weather. So it finally it finally cooled down last night, yesterday. It last night it got down to 40, which is not that cold, especially for us northerners. But, I've talked to you guys. I have some good news, first of all. I had to bring Jupiter in last night. I slept in my office all night with him on my lap because I did not want him to be out there in the cold. It's going to be a little warmer tonight, being plagued with all sorts of problems now, tonight. All right. Anyway, I have some good news, but that in a second. Hey, Brian, Alan, Dave. I'm one of us. Chaz, everybody watching, everybody listening. Um, so last Thursday night, I told you guys that I was very sad because my outdoor cat. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Dave. My outdoor cat Jupiter. He just he stopped showing up. Now this is a little cat who I don't see him. It's not like I see him every couple of days and I say hi. Almost every time I walk out the back door and I walk from the bookhouse to my house and vice versa, he's out there saying hi to me, wanting me to pet him, and he's just a very loving, very friendly guy. He's not really keen on coming inside though. Uh, I tempted him with some canned cat food last night and spent the night here in the bookhouse in the easy chair with him and Monty. Monty was not too thrilled at first about it, but he's not a mean guy. He just made his displeasure known a bit. And Jupiter is just, I mean, all he wanted to do was run up to Monty and give him little cat hugs. But hey, Snixel. Um, but I finally convinced Jupiter, he's very vocal, you know what he wants, uh, to sit in my lap, and he stayed there all night, was purring his head off, and stayed there until about 5 this morning, and that's when he woke me up and wanted to go outside. But I wouldn't let him for about another hour till about when the sun came up because I figured he could handle it from there. But so that's last night. The day before last, I was out here real early. It was about 6 in the morning. So what's this? Thursday. So this would have been Tuesday morning. And Danielle was inside getting ready for work. I was out here doing something, and I'd been out here for a little bit. And all of a sudden, I started hearing this meow, 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 really loud. And I went outside. I didn't dare to hope. I went outside, and it was him. And um, I really think, based on his appearance and how happy he was to see me, I mean, he always is, but just, I think he found his way back that moment and started yelling, Mike, are you there? And because Danielle could even hear him all the way inside the house. And so it's not like it's happened before. Like I said, he's basically around here 24/7. I was so happy, man. I don't mind telling you, I was just crying. I was crying my eyes out. And yeah, what else can I say? Hey, Suzanne, except that I'm really happy about it. How did Jupiter react to being inside? Um, it was a mix of I don't want to be here, so he just sort of walks around and goes meow and doesn't stop meowing nonstop. But when I convinced him to stay in my lap last night for about 6 hours, he just stayed in my lap and was asleep. At one point, I took a picture of this, but at one point he was like on his back, right between the arm of the chair and my leg, just purring and falling asleep, and then he'd wake up and start purring again, and then he'd fall asleep. You know how cats are. But I was, it was very nice. It was very relaxing, and hopefully I just need to keep working on him slowly but surely to stay here in the book house because Texas notwithstanding, winter is coming, and it does get too cold for cats at night sometimes. I mean, the adult ones usually can handle it fine. I'm not saying they're thrilled that it's cold, but kittens, and he's a small guy. It's just it's not worth taking a chance. Plus, there are raccoons around here, and I don't leave the food out after sundown because there's raccoons and there's possums, aka the most evil-looking motherfuckers on the planet. Um, those teeth, man. And while they usually cats ignore them, they ignore cats. Not always. Yeah, I hate possums. Man, Jesus Christ, I hate possums. Logan's like, "Are you racist to possums?" And I'm like, "I'm not afraid to admit it, Logan. I am racist to possums. You know, and oh man, when Jupiter was gone for a week and a half. I mean, I had really given up hope. And Chaz, what now? You ate possum? I don't know if we can be friends anymore. Kidding, of course. But I was worried that the possums had gotten him, raccoons had gotten him. I was really, really sad. Uh, Chaz and I had a brief conversation a few days ago. Thanks for that, Chaz. But I was basically saying, first Rick and then Oreo, and now Jupiter's gone. But long story short, too late. Um, I'm extremely happy that he's back. Very, very happy. Um, something I was thinking about in regards to horror movies, horror novels, horror fiction, and anything adjacent. Uh, they're the most effective kind of horror for me personally is the kind of horror story, no matter what the medium, but the kind of horror story where it's also a mystery, especially the kind where it's not just a mystery, but it's that slow hint that there's something else going on behind the curtain of reality. You know what I mean? Now, you know, uh, and a lot of types of horror can do this. A ghost story can do this. Um, Obviously, cosmic horror can do this. Um, Holy crap, Alan. Oh man, that'd be. Was it outside that you picked up a possum? I hope it was outside. Um, but you know what I mean? The best kind of horror is to me it's a mystery as well. It's there's something going on and you don't know what it is. And movies like, a lot of slasher movies. All right, let's take Scream. I don't like slasher films, but I do like Scream quite a bit. Is there a mystery? Well, sure. There's a mystery about, who's doing it, but it's not that compelling, right? You're just watching it for the fun of it. You're not watching it for the mystery of it. But a story like The Night Ocean, a go-to example. It's the protagonist slowly, gets this realization that something's going on, and he doesn't understand it. He'll never understand it. Maybe he can't understand it. Um, Another favorite story, Ted Klein, Children of the Kingdom. That's another good example. Um, yeah, I I think it's just diminishing returns, Snixel, with the Scream films. But yeah, I mean they can be fun, but several of them really suck. I'm trying to think. Did I like the second one? Yeah, I did like the second one. Not as much as the first. You're never going to beat the first one. I don't think I liked the third one, but I can't remember any of the others except for Scream 5, which I thought was okay. I heard Scream 6 was just so terrible that I didn't even bother. There is a movie that it looks like to me is going to be pretty good. You guys check it out and see what you think if you want and when you get time. Um, it's called Strange Darling, and it's available for rent or purchase on Amazon and other platforms. As soon as I found out about this after it disappeared in theaters and before it was available for streaming. And as soon as I saw enough that and read enough, which was not much at all, that it seemed like to me this was going to be a very good, very different horror film. At that point, I didn't want to know anything else about it. So I rented it and I'm going to watch it sometime this weekend. I'll report back to you guys. But as much as I can be sure without watching, like I was pretty sure about Oddity before I saw it. Check out Strange Darling and comment below and tell me what you guys think after you've seen it. Kelly Young reports that he messaged me the other night when he's watching a horror film called, I think it was a horror film called Falling Stars, and he really, really liked it. And I said, "Well, would I like it?" And he said, "I don't know." And usually he can tell me, but he's like, it's very hit or miss. So there's another suggestion for you guys. Um, Art Bell. Every night when I go to bed, and this may sound hokey, but that's okay. I'm pretty hokey. Um, I always have this thought that I'm going on an adventure. And what I mean by that is I always listen to an audiobook or an audio drama when I go to sleep. And sometimes I'm awake for an hour and a half and I'm listening to it. And other times I'm awake for 20 minutes and that's it. But my thought is I'm not just going to sleep. That's boring, right? But I'm when I read a book, I'm going on an adventure. And when I listen to a book, I'm going on an adventure. So it's just it's the little things, it's how you spice up life and it's how you look at everything that makes the difference. And that's just something I've done for years now, and I love that feeling. Laying there in the dark, listening to something that I really love, whether it's a mystery or a horror story or whatever it is. Um, that said, tonight I'm kind of in the mood. I think I'm going to listen to, as Dave beat me to it, Coast to Coast, um, with Art Bell. There are there are a lot of things I don't know that I just started researching that I didn't know. On the night, this is from LA Review of Books.org. On the night of September 11th, 1997, the phone lines on the Coast to Coast AM show were open and unscreened, with a special line reserved for callers with inside information about Area 51. Though how they knew that, I don't know. The infamous United States Air Force Base, long rumored to house captive UFOs. The show's host, Art Bell, nestled within his home studio in Nevada, spent the first few hours fielding calls from listeners with far flung theories of government deception. But something strange happened midway through the broadcast, and it looks like they linked to this. So I'm going to listen to this tonight. A frantic caller managed to choke out a greeting before announcing that he didn't have much time. Quote, "They'll triangulate on this position really, really soon," he said, audibly crying. Uh, Quote, "What we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with," eh, and so on. The signal cut out. After 5 seconds of dead air, the show lurched back to life. Interesting word choice of words, lurched. "Well, we are now on a backup system. Something knocked us off the air," Bell reported. The satellite uplink transmitter had failed without explanation, a first for the veteran broadcaster. For the remainder of the night, Bell and his audience speculated on what exactly had occurred. So, yeah, Chaz, I like listening to lunatics. Wait a minute. What are you trying to say, man? I mean, you like listening to me. Okay, let me link to the article and let me link to the YouTube thing that they linked to. There's the first one. And Copy link address. And there's the YouTube link. I'm assuming that's correct because I haven't gone to the YouTube link yet. But I mean, yeah, I'm gonna listen to that tonight. There's a hell of a lot of them on YouTube. I know that. And then I see that on NPR. This is a 2019 article. Radio host Art Bell's Vault now online. Before conspiracy theories ran amok on the internet, there was AM and talk radio host Art Bell. Scott Simons talks with Andrew Paul, who wrote about the newly launched Art Bell Vault for AV Club. So, yeah. Scott Simon host. Remember the olden days before the internet? How did people keep up with news about UFOs, time travelers, and the paranormal? Art Bell. Yeah, remember those days? Man, the wild, wild west of the internet back then. Back when you used AOL to get online, or what, CompuServe, and we were on dial-up. Although by 1998, we had moved to a college town in Iowa, and um, this was my first time that I had internet and didn't have to use the phone line. And I don't know what blazing speed they were on, but it was lightning fast compared to the phone lines. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, Jazz. So I think I'm going to listen to that episode tonight. You guys should, when you go to after the show, when you go to bed, we should all listen to this episode and report back. And I see here on Reddit, one guy says, this is a post from a year ago. What's the craziest episode? I've been listening to podcast episodes and currently on Mel's Hole, whatever that is, which gets pretty crazy towards the end. I was wondering if there's other episodes like this, or what was the craziest episode you heard? A lot of answers here. The dude that called in when he was flying over Area 51 proceeded to get shot down still sounds real. Yeah, I don't know how much of this I'm buying, but the fun is in the listening, right? This sounds interesting. Not paranormal, but Mr. Fidget remains pretty crazy to me. How did he hack Art's lines? Was he really dual wielding payphones? Why was there a Boy Scout troop leader approaching him at 1 a.m.? Someone says there might be no episode that really takes you back in time to some strange night in the mid 1990s than this one does, listening to it late alone at night. I'm going to have to look this one up too. Mr. Fidget. Let's see what we get. Let's see what the old Google tells us. Mr. Fidget Art Bell episode. I don't know. I'll look later. If you guys find the direct link to that episode, will you post it? Yeah, exactly. Coast to Coast, Shao Conyers says, Coast to Coast always made the world feel more mysterious than it actually tends to be. Well, maybe it is, but I know exactly what you mean. I always had the same feeling in the mid 1990s after watching the X-Files live on TV back when it was on Friday night. All of us nerds who didn't go out on Friday nights, we stayed home and we watched the X-Files. Wasn't quite the same when they moved it to Sunday nights, but um, yeah. If you guys, well said, Shao Conyers. That's really well said. Um, no, hang on, Chaz. I'll let I'll let's see here. There you go. All right, Chaz. Don't get drunk on the power, but now you're a moderator on the YouTube channel, which means you should be able to post the link now. There you go. Thank you. Toast to toast. Better mute this. Time Warp Inventor takes over art show, holds court. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna listen to, I don't know which one of these I'm gonna listen to tonight. Probably I'll do the, I'm gonna do the, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the, where am I at? I'm gonna do the crazy guy first that that we talked about a minute ago, and I'll probably fall asleep after an hour or so. And then when I get through that, then the next couple nights I'll listen to the Mr. Widget one. So thanks for the link, Chaz. Um, yeah, moving on up. Okay. Anyway, maybe that's part of why you guys are listening to me late night as well on Thursdays as well as Sundays, because it's just it's a really neat feeling, isn't it? And I'm not saying that if you're watching this show, the next day at work or something, you can't stay up this late, that it's not the same. But there is something pretty cool about listening to the same thing at the same time, over the radio. There's a one of the young characters in Dan Simmons' book, um, Summer of Night. eh, Simmons goes on into how the kid loves to listen to late night AM radio, and it's, first of all, that's a good book. I've read that several times. Um, but yeah, that that description of the kid and listening to late night radio and everything. If you've not read, by the way, um, if you've not read Summer of Night by Dan Simmons, you should. And it's a straight up horror book. It's done really well. It's in the same vein as It and Boy's Life adjacent. I wouldn't say Boy's Life is horror, um, although there is horror in it. But Boy's Life by Robert McCammon is probably in the top 10 best books I've ever read. Um, all genres. Dan Simmons' Summer of Night is very, very good. And what can I say? I've read it over the years. I've read it 3 or 4 times, and it's not a thin book. And it's on Audible as well. It's narrated very well. So, oh, you did Boy's Life. Thank you, Chaz. This is what I love about, one of the many things I love about doing this show is when I recommend books to you guys, and then you love them. So thanks for telling me that. That's, besides financial help, being on the Patreon, uh, letting me know that you enjoyed a recommendation of mine is I love that. It's very encouraging for me. Uh, if you're not on the Patreon, you can start at $5 a month, and you could never go any higher than that per month and get just hundreds and hundreds of hours of Patreon only podcast content that uh, regular listeners of the show don't have access to. So I guess the question you have to ask yourself if you're not a patron is, will you miss $5 a month? If it's going to hurt you, then don't do it. Obviously, I wouldn't want that, but I I think most of us, and I don't make much money, and my wife doesn't. She's a teacher, but most of us won't miss $5 a month, right? So anyway, commercial is over. Back to the show. So yes, I'm going to listen to Art Bell tonight, and you guys listen to those episodes, and then come back here later and comment on the below comments. Okay, I'd appreciate it. All right, this next one. Okay, I'm reading a book called Cannon Bridge. That is Cannonbridge, basically just like it sounds. Cannon Bridge. Cannon Bridge by Jonathan Barnes. There we go. I'm 25% of the way through reading it on Kindle, and let me just read you the synopsis. I loved his book, The Somnambulist, which I read several years ago. That's really, really good too. Uh, I'm not saying these are horror books. I would not describe them as that, but I don't just recommend horror books. That said, this one may turn out to be, and it's it's only $6.99 on Kindle, by the way. All right, here we go. Flamboyant Matthew Cannonbridge was touched by genius, the most influential mind of the 19th century, a novelist, playwright, the poet of his generation. The only problem is he should never have existed. In recently divorced 21st century Don Toby Judd is the only person to realize something is wrong with history. Cannonbridge was everywhere. He was by Lake Geneva when the talk between Byron, Shelley, and Mary Godwin turned to the supernatural. You remember that one? Frankenstein. He was friend to the young Dickens as he labored in the blacking factory. He was the only man of note to visit Wilde in prison. His extraordinary life spanned a century. But as the world prepares to toast the bicentenary of Cannonbridge's most celebrated work, Judd's discovery leads him on a breakneck chase across the English canon and countryside to the realization that the spectra of Matthew Cannonbridge, planted so seamlessly into the heart of the 19th century, might not be so dead and buried after all. As you guys know, when I'm reading a book that I like, I do a lot of highlighting. Bearing in mind I'm only 25% through this book so far, but I have to tell you I'm loving it. I'm just flying across the pages. I'll read a few things that I've highlighted. The lease of man is temporary and transient. There were terrible wonders before him. We may be sure that there shall be so again in the years to follow his superseding. What does that remind you of? Now, someone says to Cannonbridge, the novel, each chapter goes from the 19th century to the present day. Back in the 19th century, someone says to Matthew Cannonbridge on their second meeting years later, "Sometimes," he murmurs, "we wondered if we'd dreamt you, if we hadn't somehow summoned you up from our imaginations. But that isn't so, sir, is it?" "In truth," says Cannonbridge, "I cannot be certain. The really neat thing is, well, one of the really neat things is that Cannonbridge is trying to figure out who he is. It, it's really well done, and he says there are intermissions in my memory. There are ellipses. Sometimes I seem to appear at places with no real recollection of how I came to be there. I am on a journey, my friend, to find out who I am, my origins, my nature, my purpose." This is nicely done. The guy says, who was this? The doctor there that was there that night with Mary Shelley and Percy and Byron. "Not long after that night of tale-telling, he dreamed about you," speaking of Byron, "and he wrote down the dream in verse. I'm sure you've read this poem. I had a dream which was not all a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space." There's a lot more to that poem, but I've always loved it. Anyway, so there's a recommendation, guys. Check out Cannon Bridge by Jonathan Barnes. And if you've not read The Somnambulist, check that out too. I guess if you had to pin a label on these, yeah, thanks, Alan. If you had to pin a label on these, you should be a history teacher. Um, these two books, you'd probably label them as fantasy, but they're not Lord of the Rings fantasy. They're more the kind of fantasy that I really love, like, like uh, Boy's Life, the kind of fantasy where it's a normal setting, right? When and wherever that may be. And then elements of the fantastical creep in, and until, as you're reading the book, this sense of, I don't know, magical discovery comes over you. You feel like anything could be possible. And it's different when you read The Lord of the Rings, you feel like anything could be possible, but you kind of know that at the get-go, right? This kind of fantasy is different. And I think, yeah, a really good example of this kind of fantasy, in my mind at least, is Boy's Life, McCammon's Boy's Life. Alan says, there's a good book about Byron as a vampire by the historian Tom Holland. Lord of the Dead. I might have to check that out, Alan. Let's see here. Grab my pen. Lord of the Dead. Okay. Um, horror movie, The Apprentice, the Trump movie. I I think I saw the trailer, but I haven't seen the film. Anyway, yeah, I really love that kind of fantasy. I won't say it stays there, but the first Amber book, Roger Zelazny's Amber, Nine Princes in Amber, is kind of like that because it starts off in the modern era of the 70s, but the modern era, and this guy has lost his memory, but he realizes very quickly that he's different than other people in a variety of ways. And the first book, much of it is a quest to find out who he is. So, um, Have you guys all read the Amber series? At least the first five. The second five with Corwin's son, I didn't care for as much, but it's it it's on Audible as well, and it's read it's read by it's narrated by yeah, I can't think of his name. Anyway, he does a good job. So if you want to get into them and you'd rather listen on Audible, then that's a good choice. Um, someone someone mentioned on the I think it was Brett George on the Facebook group, Lovecraft Using Facebook group, um, the Wolfen, or is it just Wolfen, by the UFO guy. Speaking of UFOs, um, Christopher Walken played him in a movie. Strieber, yeah, thanks, Dave. Whitley Strieber. Um, that's I really enjoyed that book, and let's see that I've got that on Audible also, and the other book of his that I really enjoyed is give me a second, Majestic, which is a fictional account of the Roswell thing, which you might think has been done to death, and you'd be right, but this is this is such a great version, and I'm not really usually into that sort of thing, but Strieber does a really good job, and this is not one of his books that he's claiming is true like the others. This is just a novel, but very well done. If you've not, I'm throwing out the recommendations tonight. But yeah, Majestic and Wolfen by Strieber, they're both very good books. Actually, I've tried to get into some of his other books over the years, and those are the only two of his books that I've ever uh, read successfully after the first couple of chapters, and those are very good. What else? Oh, right. So tomorrow, let's get a little light here. Tomorrow, I have a busy day. Um, at noon Eastern, I am interviewing Richard Chismar, and I'll have all these placeholders on the YouTube page early morning tomorrow. Um, but as always, you can just go to the Lovecraft Easing YouTube page, and it'll, as soon as they're up, it'll show you what's upcoming. Um, so yeah, Chismar's got a new book coming out called Memorials, and I'm really enjoying it so far. They sent it in the mail to me. I just received it the other day, so I'm going to try to get through more of it before tomorrow morning when I interview him, but I am really enjoying it so far. I don't think it's out yet, but you can pre-order it. He's written books with Stephen King, um, Gwendy's Button Box, ouch, that sort of thing. Those books, I mean. And then you guys may remember that I mentioned that I like the Charlie Parker detective series by John Connolly, which dips into the supernatural, the paranormal, and does it very well at times. He also he also has a collection called, what can I say? It's late, John. Oh, I've got it right here. Nocturnes. It's right in front of my face. Pete sent me this edition a while back. Nocturnes by John Connolly, and this is a collection of horror stories, and they're great. I've read that collection probably 3 or 4 times over the years. So if you've not had the chance to read that, you should. There's some cosmic horror in there too. There's also a short story called The New Daughter, which was adapted into a movie starring Kevin Costner, and it's quite Lovecraftian, and the movie is great. Anyway, oh man, thanks, Chaz. I really appreciate it, man. Um, I've not seen Blink Twice yet. In fact, I don't think I know what that is. Um, anyway, I said all that to say this. He's got a another horror collection coming out in a week or so called Night and Day. And if it's anything like Nocturnes, it's going to be really, really good. He's a really great writer. He really is. I uh, I signed up for that one on NetGalley um, because I've talked to his assistant before, and that's how they like to do that. And hopefully I get approved for that. But I'd like to interview him sometime. But regardless, anyway, you should read Nocturnes. And sight unseen, you should probably pre-order Night and Day. So Jupiter doesn't want a steak. Jupiter wants canned cat food, which I'm more than happy to give to him. And what I've been doing is the outdoor cats get the regular, dry Friskies. It's good stuff, like my indoor cats get. However, um, Monty is also on a canned food diet because he's a kitten and he needs the extra vitamins. That's what Danielle says, which is fine with me. And part of my plan to lure Jupiter in is that he can eat all of the dry Friskies outside that he wants, but the canned cat food he eats here in the bookhouse. Which, don't get me wrong, it's when he's in here the last day or so, it's not like he's feels like he's being tortured or anything. He's just used to being outdoors, and cats hate change. They hate it, even good change. And just you have to be patient with them and give them time to get used to it and not get frustrated about the fact that they do hate change. I mean, if you've got cats and you move to a new house or whatnot, inevitably there's going to be some of them who will get in a closet and hide for 2 days, and then after that they'll be okay. They'll get used to it, and that's all it is. But yeah, I'm that will go towards canned cat food for Jupiter. Thank you, Jazz. It's really nice of you to do that, man. Um, appreciate it. And in addition to being a patron, thank you. Yeah, exactly, Kim. All right. We'll let you guys go to bed soon, and we're all gonna listen to Art Bell in bed, right? That's the plan. That sounds bad. We're not all gonna be in bed together, but in that sense, we'll be together. I'll think about you guys while I'm in the laying in the dark listening to that Art Bell crazy guy episode. See if there's anything else I wanted to talk about before. No, I wanted to let you guys know about. Oh, right. Richard Chismar is at noon Eastern, and then Richard Thomas is at 5 p.m. Eastern. Of course, if you can't watch live, you can watch later, just as always. and he wrote a book called, among others, called Incarnate, and I'm really enjoying that one too. So if you're a Patreon and you're at the $10 and up level, tomorrow night we're doing at the usual time, which would be 9 Eastern, we're doing a hangout. So that'll start, yeah, that'll start at 9 Eastern time, 8 Central, 7 Pacific. So I've got 2 interviews tomorrow and I've got the hangout. So by the time I get to the hangout, you guys might have to carry it. And then the regular show on Sunday. I don't remember if I have anybody on Sunday or not. I don't think I do, which would be kind of nice just to do just to hang out with the guys and the gal, Bridget. Let's see here. No, I do. CF Page. Oh, I've been looking forward to chatting with him though. So, you guys got a lot of content coming up the next few days. Also, next couple of days I'll be posting a new Patreon podcast to Patreon, obviously. I recorded this yesterday with Nadia Bolkin. We do an episode every couple of months or so where she gives book recommendations. So the Thomas Brothers will be on the Halloween show a week from Sunday, I believe that is. Yes, it is the 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern. And I've been thinking of doing this. What do you guys think? I've never done this before, but um, Halloween show. I'm writing this down. Halloween up. It would be great to hear more strange but true stories from folks. And to that end, I think I would like to do the Thomas Brothers and me hosting it like we do every year. And then anybody on the Patreon at the $10 level up and $10 a month level and up, let's say, um, can be on that episode also, if you want to be. I'll post something about that to the Patreon. Um, Post Halloween so that anyone who is not listening to my words now will know about it. I'll post that to the $10 and up Patreons. But yeah, I think that would be cool. And so if you are going to be there, get your, strange but true stories ready. And maybe you're like me. Maybe you're very evidence minded and all that. Uh, you know, but it doesn't mean that strange things haven't happened to you. And it doesn't mean that things haven't happened to you that you can't explain. Now, Laird and I have talked about this. It doesn't mean that you do a God of the Gaps thing where, oh, I saw a light in the sky. I don't know what it was, so it must be aliens. No, not so much, but might be, something might have happened to you that you just simply can't explain. I mean, that stuff has happened to me. Um, so, oh yeah, yeah. Um, the old ones on the on YouTube. I hesitate to mention one year everything went wrong. I was so pissed because I mean technically wrong because this is a once a year thing and the Thomas brothers were telling some great stories and you know it all went to hell. Yeah, I was not happy, Dave. Anyway, what you can do is go to the Lovecraft Easing YouTube channel, Chaz, and type in Halloween, and probably take you to most of them without too much noise. And Dave, what year was that? Your story, I mean. Do you remember? Couldn't have been too long ago because DeBronzo was there. So it had to have been within the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, 2022. Okay. Well, yeah, those Halloween episodes are a lot of fun. So something new this year. If you're a Patreon and you're at that level and up, and you feel like joining us, yeah, do so. If that's the case, make sure that you email me, lovecrafteasing@gmail.com. Don't message me on Facebook because it might fall through the cracks, but email me and it won't. So, as a matter of fact, actually, what I will do, I'm just thinking about this in real time. What I will do on the Halloween show, when I send the link to the Thomas Brothers, the Zoom link, I mean, I will post it on Patreon to all the $10 and up level Patreons. And so you'll get the link that way. So, probably about 15 minutes before the show on the 27th. So, yep, that'll be an easy way to do it. Davey says, wish I could jump on the Patreon chat tomorrow. Been getting caught on the road every Friday night for work. Sorry, man. I assume you mean on the road, uh, like across the country or something? Um, but yeah. Um, yeah, Chaz, I think it'll be a lot of fun. So, and what, what else? I think that's it. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night, as you can imagine, out here in the bookhouse. So I'm gonna go to bed, listen to Coast to Coast, get up early, finish preparing for my interviews tomorrow. And thanks for spending your Thursday night with me, guys. And um, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.